برنامه نان گل سرخ رو نگاه میکنید، مجله اجتماعی سیاسی که به زبانهای انگلیسی و فارسی روی کانال جدید پخش میشه. سلام به همگی، من مریم نمازی هم
و من فریبرز پویا هستم.
دوست داریم قبل از شروع برنامه به بینندگان عزیز اول بگیم عیدتون مبارک. امیدوارم چهارشنبه سوری خوبی داشتین، عید خوبی داشتین و دوست داریم به سلامتی شما یه مشروبی بزنیم.
امیدوارم که سال موفق و پیروزی رو داشته باشید. در برنامه اجازه است من درینکمو بخورم؟
بفرمایید.
در برنامه این هفته مصاحبه‌ای داریم با یوهان هری در رابطه با جنگ بر علیه مواد مخدر.
در ضمن در رابطه با یک فیلم مخفی در رابطه با وضعیت زنان در رقه سوریه، حمله مجدد علیه پناهجویان در اروپا، جداسازی در یک دانشگاه لندن، یه فتوای احمقانه علیه بوفه غذا و در ضمن کلوب 2 به نفع پناهجویان. با ما باشید. در هفته‌ای که گذشت خبرهای زیادی هست. یه فیلم مخفیه که 2 زن در رقه سوریه گرفتن در رابطه با وضعیت زنان در سوریه و واقعا این فیلم آدم نگاه میکنه فکر کنم گریهش بگیره، به خاطر اینکه نشون میده چقدر زندگی آدمایی که اونجا هستن واقعا اسفناکه و به خصوص زنان.
دقیقاً. و این زندگی تحت کنترل داعش نمایندگی زندگی تحت فاشیسم رو نشون میده و یک سناریو کاملا سیاه که انسان هیچ قدرتی درش نداره و جریانات و مافیای مذهبی کاملا قدرت داره. تفاوتش با ایران در اینه که و سوریه، عربستان سعودی در اینه که چقدر مردم مقاومت کردن و مردم تونستن اون صحنه رو بر علیه جریانات اسلامی باز کنن و زندگی مردم تحت جریانات اسلامی و جریانات مذهبی کاملا سیاه است.
و جالب اینجاست که حتی در تحت حاکمیت داعش آدمایی هستن که دارن مقاومت میکنن، یعنی واقعا براشون خیلی ریسک بزرگه. این 2 زن اگر بفهمن کیان دیگه تموم شده زندگیشون و میکشنشون حتما. ولی یه حرفای این زنا میزنن که واقعا آدم دلش میگیره. مثلا یکی از خانم‌ها گفته بود که فقط من انقدر خواهان اون روزی هستم که بتونم این نقاب و این همه‌گیر سیاهی که منو گرفته رو بردارم، بتونم نفس بکشم، تو خیابون تنها راه برم، به خاطر اینکه زن‌ها اصلا اجازه ندارن تنهایی برن توی خیابون، اجازه ندارن درس بخونن، کار کنن. و میگفت که واقعا چقدر آزادی مهمه، چقدر اهمیت داره برای زندگی انسان.
دقیقاً این انعکاسش رو توی خاص زنای ایران روی شکل دیگه هم میشه دید. حتی مثلا توی ساحل دریا بدوی و باد توی موات بخوره، اون احساس آزادی و رهایی رو فکر کنم خیلی از زنها تحت جریان حکومت‌های اسلامی و جریان زندگی تحت این جریانات احساس میکنن. و این تظاهرات و مقاومت‌ها میشه حتی توی تحت کنترل داعش رو میشه دید. مردم اخیراً هفته گذشته تظاهرات کردن به علیه جناح‌های مختلف جریانات اسلامی و دستجات مسلح توی سوریه.
و خب جالب اینجاست که زن‌ها دارن مقاومت میکنن در خیلی از کشورهایی که اسلام در قانون در حاکمیته و میایم توی اروپا و میبینیم که همش بهانه و حقانیت میبخشن به جریانات اسلامی. همین چند وقت پیش اخیراً در دانشگاه اقتصاد لندن جامعه اسلامی این دانشگاه شام سالانش رو برگزار کرده و پرده گذاشته، جداسازی جنسی داشته، یک کانون دانشگاهی. خب دانشگاه اقتصاد لندن پرده گذاشته، زن خواهران اینور، برادران اونور، و واقعا مثلا آدم شاخ در میاره که توی لندن این کارو میکنن. و نه فقط این کارو کردن، تعدادی هستن که دفاع میکنن و میگن جداسازی جزء فرهنگشونه، باید بهش احترام گذاشت. و حتی اتحادیه دانشجویان رؤساشون اومدن گفتن که هیچ کار غیر قانونی صورت نگرفته، خب میتونن جدا بشینن و این خواستشونه. انگار اینکه یه حقه، جداسازی حقه.
اینکه جدا کردن زن و مرد به عنوان همون سیاست جماعت اسلامی که توی رقه با زور و تفنگ کار میکنن، توی جامعه ایران میبینیم که 30 و چند سال، نزدیک 40 سال دارن تلاش میکنن این جداسازی رو به وجود بیارن. یا توی عربستان سعودی این کار دارن میکنن، توی جوامع انجمن‌های اسلامی، توی دانشگاه‌های انگلیس و توی اروپا دارن تلاش میکنن به شکل خیلی نرم و اینکه خب حق ماست که هر جوری که میخوایم زندگی کنیم، هر جوری دیگه میخوایم بینمون پرده باشه و سعی میکنن که این رو به یه شکلی به شکل نرمش انجام بدن و این نسبت به بستگی به قدرتشون داره چقدر بتونن اعلام کنن. ولی خیلی بر علیه این دارن اعتراض میکنن، مقاومت میکنن. توی استرالیا ماه پیش در واقع تو بعد چند برنامه قبلا ما بهش اشاره کردیم که یه خانمی جماعت اسلامی رو به دادگاه برده بود و پیروز شد که در مکان عمومی نمیتونین بین زن و مرد.
اتفاقا تو خود انگلیس هم ما یه کمپینی داشتیم علیه جداسازی در دانشگاه و موفق شدیم و خود کمیسیون حقوق بشر این کشور گفت که جداسازی غیر قانونیه، ولی خب میبینیم هنوز اینا تلاششون رو میکنن و پله به پله باید جلوشون ایستاد. اتفاقا ما داریم یه تظاهراتی علیه همین جداسازی به زودی سازمان میدیم و هفته پیش هم یه تظاهراتی سازمان دادیم علیه محدودیت‌هایی که کسایی که رهبری اتحادیه دانشجویان هستن اعمال کردن تو دانشگاه‌ها که خیلی راحته برای اسلامیون که بیان هر چی میخوان بگن، از سنگسار دفاع کنن، از طالبان دفاع کنن، از جمهوری اسلامی دفاع کنن، ولی تا ماهایی که منتقد اسلامی سیاسی هستیم میام صحبت میکنیم کلی شرط و شروط داریم، یا قدغن میشیم یا میگن مسئله امنیتی هست، انگار اینکه ماییم که مشکل امنیتی به وجود میاریم، نه اسلامیایی که باشون دوستن.
یه بخشی از این قضیه مثلا اینه که جریانات هواداران اسلامی در واقع جزء رهبری اتحادیه دانشجویان انگلیس هستن و مبارزه خیلی وسیعی رو بر علیه اینا شروع شده توی دانشگاه‌ها. جریانات سکولار و آزادی‌خواه انجمن‌های متفاوت کمپینایی رو شروع کردن و تلاش میکنن که این وضعیت و این پلتفرم رو عوض بکنن که همه بدون قید شرط آزادی بیان داشته باشن. حتی عقایدی رو که آدما فکر میکنن که ناراحت کننده است، اجتماعی نیست، به عرف جامعه نمیخوره، همه باید این آزادی بدون قید شرط رو داشته باشن، عقاید مختلف با هم بحث بشه، نظر بشه، برخورد بکنن و آدما، انسان‌ها میتونن تصمیم بگیرن که کدوم از اون نظرها رو قبول بکنن و این بکنم. این اصول خیلی مهمی هست که ارزشمنده که ازش دفاع کرد.
دقیقاً. یعنی واقعیت اینه که اگرم یه عقیده‌ای خیلی نفرت پراکنی باشه یا ضد زن باشه، ضد بشر باشه، هرچی، وقتی که یه عقیده باشه که البته دورش چیز نیست، خشونت وجود، مثلا سعی نمی‌کنن خشونت آمیز باشه، یه کسی داره حرفشو میزنه، ایده خودشو داره میگه، اتفاقا با سانسور که نمیشه جلوی عقاید ضد زن و ضد بشر گرفت، باید با اون عقاید جنگید، مبارزه کرد و برای اون آزادی بیان واقعا حیاتیه که بشه این جنگو کرد و اون عقایدی که عقب مونده است ضد زن رو عقب روند.
دقیقاً. و این آزادی بی شرط بیان یکی از مهمترین پایه‌های حقوق و وجود انسانه.
دقیقاً. به خاطر اینکه اگر نتونیم آزادی بیان داشته باشیم که بتونیم حرفای خودمون رو بزنیم، آزادی ابراز عقیدمون رو اعمال کنیم، بتونیم بیان کنیم، واقعا هیچی نمیمونه برای آدمایی که بتونن مبارزه کنن علیه ستم و
دقیقاً. من فکر کنم امشب ما خیلی داریم در این مورد صحبت می‌کنیم، به باقی خبرام
که مسئله پناهندگیه. خب میدونیم که ناتو هم الان دیگه داره دخالت میکنه توی وضعیت پناهندگی که جلوی فرار پناهندگان بگیره. الان هم اخیراً دولت ترکیه دارن بهش پول بیشتری میدن که پناهنده رو برگردونن ترکیه و میخوان الان پناهندگان رو برگردن لیبی که خود دولت ائتلافی لیبی تو خود لیبی نیست، توی تونسه، بخاطر اینکه نمیتونه بره اونجا، ولی اون پناهنده بدبخت باید برگرده اونجا.
برای خود دولتش بعد با این دولتی که در خارج از لیبیه دارن قرارداد می‌بندن که پناهنده‌هایی رو که در دریا دارن میان تو دریا گرفتن با همون قایق شکسته برگردونن تو سواحل لیبی اونجا رها کنن و جای خیلی ناامنی. و این نشون میده که دولت‌های اروپا دارن در واقع اون اصول پایه‌ای حقوق بشر رو به این دولت‌های مثل دولت لیبی و دولت ترکیه دارن میفروشن و حقوق پایه‌ای که مال انسان هاست، مال دولت اروپا نیست، که بتونه دربارش معامله کنه. حقوق پایه‌ای انسان‌ها رو داره میفروشه و این به نظر من فکر کنم یکی از عقب مونده ترین کارهاییه که دولت‌های اروپایی دارن میکنن و مقاومت فراوانی در برابر این هست و باید در برابر این زیر پا گذاشتن حقوق پناهنده ها و حقوق انسان ها مقاومت کرد.
اخیراً مصاحبه داشتم با یوهان هاری، نویسنده و ژورنالیست که یک کتابی اخیراً نوشته در رابطه با جنگ علیه مواد مخدر. این مصاحبه واقعاً مهمه و اهمیت ویژه‌ای داره برای کسایی که تو ایران زندگی میکنن. حتما پای مصاحبه بشینین، با ما باشید. Johan Hari, thank you for joining us on the program. I wanted to ask about your best-selling book, Chasing the Scream, on the drug war. What are some of the main myths that you deal with in the book?
Can I just say before we start, just two things might be of interest to your viewers. One is I wanted to say that I think we've known each other, Mariam, for about 15 years now, and I just want to say that you are one of the most brave and principled people I know, that I have seen you keep your cool when standing up to both kind of really frightening religious fundamentalists and right-wingers here in Europe, and you always do it with such principle, and I've always been just so... We spoke alongside each other at the many times, but I remember one time in particular when the Pope came to London and we spoke outside Downing Street, and it was... I have this surreal memory of being sandwiched between you and Richard Dawkins, and Ben Goldacre throwing condoms into the crowd that had been blown up, and then... But yeah, so I just want to...
Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you.
No, I really mean that. I think the work you do is so important and really so principled. Also, some of your viewers might remember my mum and dad. My parents worked in the Tehran Sheraton for 3 years. Between 1973 and 1976, my mother was the barmaid and my dad was a cook in the kitchen.
No.
So they remember Iran really well, that my brother grew up for 3 years of his life there when he was young. He remembers it, and they have really strong, really fond memories of Iran. They loved the Iranian people. They loved it. So if anyone remembers my mum and dad, email me. They'd love to hear from their old Iranian friends.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
So yeah, but sorry, a long prelude to your question, which is about the war on drugs. So I was interested in this for a very personal reason. One of my earliest memories is of trying to wake up one of my relatives and not being able to, and I was very young then, so I didn't understand why, but as I got older I realised we had drug addiction in my family. And when I started working on the book, it must be nearly 5 years ago, I'm terrible at maths, about 5 years ago, I realised we were coming up to, it was 100 years since drugs were first banned last year. It was first banned by the United States and then imposed on the rest of the world. And I realised, you know, I wanted to write a book coming out around the anniversary. And when I started to write, I kind of slightly arrogantly thought, oh, I know loads about this subject. You know, I've lived through it with my family. I've written about it quite a lot as a journalist. But when I actually sat down, I realised that I didn't know the answers to the most basic questions about this. Why did we go to war against drug users and drug addicts? Why do we carry on when it doesn't seem to be working? What are the alternatives actually like in practice? And what really causes drug use and drug addiction? And I couldn't find the answers in what I was reading, so I ended up going on quite a long journey. I went to 12 different countries, over 30,000 miles. What I wanted to do was sit with people whose lives had been changed, either by the war on drugs or by the alternatives to the war on drugs. And I think the main thing I realised is that almost everything we think we know about this subject is wrong. Drugs are not what we think they are. Addiction is not what we think it is. The drug war is not what we think it is, and the alternative to the drug war is not what we think it is. This actually plays out in Iran in really interesting ways that I'm fascinated by. Obviously plays out everywhere. I think it particularly plays out in a fascinating way in Iran. But I'll just give you one myth to start with. I'm sure there's plenty we can talk about. But one of the things that most blew my mind was to learn that addiction is not what we've been told it is. If you had said to me 5 years ago, what causes, say, to pick an issue very relevant to Iran, heroin addiction, I think I would have looked at you like you were a bit stupid, and I would have said, well, it's called heroin addiction. Obviously heroin addiction is caused by heroin. We've got a story that we think, you know, if the next 20 people to walk past your offices, if they all used heroin together, if we plucked them randomly off the street and they all used heroin together for a month, at the end of that month they'd all be heroin addicts. For a simple reason, that there are chemical hooks in heroin that their bodies would start to physically need. And by the end of that month, they'd have this desperate physical craving, and that's what addiction is. That's what I believed. First thing that alerted me to the fact there's something wrong about that is when it was explained to me, and if either of us step out onto the street now and we get hit by a truck, God forbid, and I can imagine there's plenty of people driving trucks that want to run you over, and me too, and we get taken to hospital with a broken hip, we'll be given loads of diamorphine for the pain. Diamorphine is heroin. It's just the medical name for heroin, right? Well, you'd be given it for quite a long period of time. Anyone watching this who has a grandmother who's had a hip replacement operation, she's taken lots of heroin, right? If what we think about addiction is right, that it's caused by exposure to the chemical hooks, what should happen to all these people in hospitals? Some of them at least should be leaving as drug addicts. It doesn't happen. And when I learned that, it just seemed so weird and so contrary to everything I'd ever been told that I assumed it couldn't be right. I only really began to understand it when I went to Vancouver and interviewed this incredible man called Bruce Alexander. He's a leading professor of psychology there, now retired, who did an experiment that I think helps us to understand this. I think it particularly helps us to understand why Iran is having a big addiction crisis at the moment. He explained to me this idea about addiction that we've got in our heads, that it's caused by the chemical hooks, comes partly from a series of experiments that were done earlier in the 20th century. They're really simple experiments, and your viewers can try them at home if they feel a little bit sadistic. You get a rat and you put it in a cage and you give it 2 water bottles. One is just water and the other is water laced with either heroin or cocaine. If you do that, the rat will almost always prefer the drugged water and almost always kill itself quite quickly within about a week. So there you go, totally fits with what we think addiction is. In the 70s, Professor Alexander came along and said, hang on a minute, we're putting this rat in an empty cage. It's got nothing to do alone. It's got nothing to do except use these drugs. What would happen if we did this differently? So he built a cage that he called Rat Park, which is basically like heaven for rats, right? Anything a rat could want in life, it's got in Rat Park. It's got loads of cheese, it's got loads of friends, can have loads of sex, it's got loads of tunnels, everything rats like. And they've got both the water bottles, the normal water and the drugged water. But this is the fascinating thing. They try both, of course, because they don't know what's in them. In Rat Park, they don't like the drugged water. They almost never use it. None of them ever use it compulsively. None of them ever overdose. So you go from almost 100% overdose when they're isolated, have no meaning, are deprived of the things that give them meaning. And when they have good environments with good sources of meaning, you have no compulsive use and no overdose. That tells, and there's loads of human examples I can talk about, but I think it tells you something really fundamental.
So fundamentally, drug addiction is a social problem.
Yeah, I think the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. There is a real chemical hook component. That's not a fake part of the story, but it's a small part of the story. As you can tell from the fact that you have things like gambling addiction, well, obviously there's no chemical hook in a roulette wheel, right? And yet you go and meet a gambling addict, they're just as addicted as any alcoholic or drug addict you're ever going to meet. I think you're right that the social and environmental factors are huge and have been massively underestimated.
So is that why the war on drugs is failing? That's one of the reasons. What are the other ones?
I think it's a key reason. Because once you understand that pain and isolation are major drivers of addiction, you realise why inflicting more pain and more isolation on addicts doesn't work. In fact, it's worse than that it doesn't work. It actually makes the problem worse. I'll give you an example. I wanted to go to the places where they had been really tough in the drug war and places where they'd adopted really compassionate drug policies. So I'll give you 2 examples. In Arizona, I went out with a group of women who are made to go out on a chain gang wearing t-shirts saying I was a drug addict and forced to dig graves while members of the public jeer at them. And then they go back to the prison, which is tents surrounded by barbed wire in the desert. Those women, when they leave, almost all of them go back to drug addiction. They feel even more humiliated. These are broken women. When you talk to them about their lives, these are just broken people. And this system breaks them more. At one point in that prison, I asked the women were terrified of this thing called the hole, which is the solitary confinement block. And I asked to see the hole. And I was really surprised that the guards took me to see the hole. And the women were, it was just a kind of airless cell, it was literally air, but it was just a cell where the woman is put alone with nothing for a month. And I looked at this and I suddenly thought, this is the closest you could ever get to a human recreation of the cages that guaranteed addiction in rats. And this is what we're doing, thinking it'll make these women stop being addicted. It was crazy. So there's, you can see it there, but if you look at a place that went completely beyond the war on drugs in a really interesting way, which I think helps us to understand it as well. So in the year 2000, Portugal had one of the biggest drug problems in the world, actually even bigger than the one in Iran at the moment. 1% of the population was addicted to heroin, which is extraordinary. And every year they tried the Iranian/American way more, they arrested more people, they imprisoned more people. And every year the problem got worse. And one day, the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition got together and basically said, look, we can't go on like this, what are we going to do? So they decided to set up a panel of scientists and doctors. And they said to them, you guys go away, look at the best evidence about addiction, including what we've just been talking about, come back and tell us what will solve it, and we've agreed in advance we'll do whatever you recommend. So just took it out of politics in a really smart way. I don't think they thought the panel would recommend something quite as radical as they did, but anyway, the panel came back, led by this amazing man called Dr. João Goulart, who I got to know, and they said, decriminalise all drugs, from cannabis to crack, but, and this is the crucial next step, take all the money we currently spend on making addicts' lives worse and spend it instead on turning their lives around. And what's interesting is that money, and that they did it, it's not really what we think of as drug treatment in Britain and the US. So they did some rehab, some psychological support. But actually the biggest thing they did is the opposite of what we do. They set up a huge program of job creation for addicts. Say you used to be a mechanic, they'll go to a garage and they'll say, employ this guy for a year, we'll pay half his wages. They set up a huge program of microloans so addicts could set up small businesses they ran themselves. The goal was to say to every addict in Portugal, we love you, we value you, we're on your side, we want you back. And the results are now in. It's 15 years and a few months since this began. Injecting drug use is down in Portugal by 50%, 50%. Overdose deaths are massively down. HIV infection is massively down. I went and interviewed a guy called João Figueira, who was the top drug cop in Portugal at the time of the decriminalisation. And he led the campaign against it. He said, this is madness. This will, you can imagine the things people said. The country will be taken over by drugs. Everyone will will have a huge increase in drug use and drug addiction. And he said to me, everything I said would happen didn't happen. And everything the other side said would happen did. And he talked about how he felt really ashamed that he'd spent 30 years before the decriminalisation arresting and harassing drug addicts when he could have been turning their lives around.
So, I mean, it's really heartbreaking when you think about the sorts of abuses that drug addicts face. In Iran, for example, you can even be executed for it. There was recently information about a village where the entire male population had been executed because of drug issues. So obviously that's not the way forward. What are some of the minimum steps that governments need to take to get rid of this problem?
Well, I think it's interesting, just to come to that in a second, but I think what you've touched on a really interesting aspect of this, which is that, so Iran is fairly widely regarded in the kind of academic literature as having one of the worst addiction crises in the world. The US is one of the other places. Russia, US and Iran are usually kind of top of the dystopian league tables of drug addiction. And I think it tells you something because, drug addiction is a measure of misery and people having thwarted lives and people finding it unbearable to be present in their lives. If you think about it this way, and it took me a while to get my head around these ideas as well. You think about it, one way I think about it is, before we came in you had a cup of tea and I had a can of Diet Coke. We could have drunk vodka before we did this interview, right? Totally legally, there's a shop just across the street that sells vodka. I could have brought in a bottle of vodka, we could be drinking it now. We're not. The reason why we're not is not because anyone's stopping us. The reason we're not doing that is because we want to be present in our lives. We've got things we want to do, we've got things we believe in, we've got, things we want to be present for. The core of addiction isn't about not wanting to be present in your life. And when you have huge numbers of people in your society who do not want to be present in their lives, that tells you something that things gone terribly wrong in that society. Now, you definitely don't need me to tell you about what's going wrong in Iran. That I think it's obvious to everyone who'd be listening to this, there's also a parallel horrendous addiction crisis in the United States. You know, for the first time in the history of the United States, average male life expectancy among white men has fallen. Literally for the first time since the inception of the country, overwhelmingly because of addictions and suicide. Again, I think it's a sign that there's something terribly wrong with that society and that culture, as well as with Iran, a lot of things that they do right and a lot of admirable aspects to both societies as well. So I think it really tells you something. In terms of...
So is it decriminalisation as the first step, basically?
Well, so there's an interesting debate. So what we've talked about is the harm that's caused to drug addicts, right, and drug users, who are different categories. The vast majority of drug users are not addicts. The vast majority of drug users, just like the vast majority of people who drink alcohol, are not alcoholics, right? So most people who use currently illegal drugs, including cocaine and heroin, and that surprised me when I looked at the figures, but they're very clear, are not addicts. They're doing it for the same reason that, a lot of my friends would have a glass of wine or a glass of vodka. But so we've talked about that. I actually think the biggest harm caused by the war on drugs is not, obviously it's very close to my heart, I think it's horrendous. The biggest harm is a whole other thing, which is the violence caused by the system of prohibition. Again, this plays out in Iran in very significant ways. So best way to explain it is, when you ban a drug, obviously it doesn't vanish, right? It's transferred from the people who used to control it, doctors, pharmacists, legal businesses, to armed criminal gangs. And that has a real effect. Best way to understand the effect is, if you imagine, if you or I now, maybe I've depressed you so much, we decide to go and steal a bottle of vodka from the liquor store across the street, the off-licence across the street. If that store catches us, they'll call the police, and the police will come and take us away. So that liquor store doesn't need to be violent, it doesn't need to be intimidating. They've got the power of the law to uphold their property rights. If, on the other hand, we decided to steal a bag of cannabis or a bag of cocaine from the people who sell it in this area, and they sell it in this area like they do in every part of London and every part of the world, if that guy catches us, obviously he can't ring the police, right? The police will come and take him away. He'd have to fight us. Now, if you're a drug dealer, you don't want to be fighting all the time, right? So you have to establish your reputation for being so frightening that people won't be so foolish as to come and pick a fight with you. You have to establish your place in that neighbourhood by fighting off other drug dealers. The war on drugs creates a war for drugs, with a huge amount of violence. Milton Friedman, the Nobel Prize-winning economist, calculated there are 10,000 additional murders every year in the United States as a result of that. Now, I learned a lot of this from spending a lot of time with a transgender crack dealer in Brooklyn called Chino Hardin, who I write about in Chasing the Scream, and with a hitman for one of the deadliest Mexican drug cartels, which I can talk about in a second. But so that's bad enough in a place like London. If you're on the supply route countries, where huge chunks of the economy are therefore taken over by armed criminal gangs, you're talking about a devastating amount of violence. I spent time in northern Mexico. I just came here from Colombia. More people have died in the drug war violence in Mexico and Colombia than have died in Syria in the civil war, right? You compare how much we talk about Syria. Quite rightly, we should talk about Syria and we should do what we can. But we almost never talk about the drug war related violence. And that violence is entirely caused by prohibition. And if you want to know proof of that, ask yourself, where are the violent alcohol dealers? Does the head of Guinness go and shoot the head of Smirnoff, right? Do the kids who work in the local supermarket in the liquor aisle, do they go and stab the people who work in the off-licence? Of course not. That happened under alcohol prohibition. We all know who Al Capone was, right? Exactly what happened. That violence ended the day alcohol prohibition ended, because it was transferred from a prohibited market to. So I think the case you referenced, I'd want to go and look it up again, but the case you referenced of the Iranian village where there was the massacre, and there have been a whole series of massacres in Iran and other parts of the region. And my understanding is I think that's a village that was associated with drug trafficking rather than drug addiction. And again, sometimes you get a kind of attitude which is, we'll have some sympathy for the addicts, but people involved in the trade, they deserve their killing, they deserve the horror they're getting, and it's a less popular cause. Actually, if I think about Chino, the crack dealer I got to know in Brooklyn, if I think about Rosalio, who was a hitman for the Zetas, which is one of the worst Mexican drug cartels, they didn't deserve to die. They were born in awful circumstances, they had awful lives, which doesn't, I don't condone the acts of violence that they committed, particularly Rosario, but you know, and I think so. This kind of mad logic, and Iran is one of the worst offenders in the world for, you know, extreme human rights violations against anyone suspected of being involved in the drug trade. I think are a disaster. There's actually a terrible case. I'm going to say their names wrong. You told me how to say it.
Alaei.
Yeah, the Alaei brothers. So obviously from the kind of Khomeini revolution in 1979, or the hijacked revolution hijacked by Khomeini in 1979, to the late 90s, Iran has these very brutal drug policies, somewhat analogous to what Russia has now, where basically anyone who has anyone who's found with drugs in any way is horrifically abused. And one of the effects when you do that, so this intersects with the AIDS crisis in a really disastrous way, which is that if you arrest people who are found with needles, for example, which was done in Iran, which is done now in Russia, which was done in the United States briefly during the AIDS crisis, the height of the AIDS crisis there. What it means is addicts don't want to carry needles, so they'll share needles. Now, if you want to spread AIDS, that's what you do, right? You would punish people who are found with needles, because then they'll have to share them, and then the virus is supersized, is metastasized, right? I interviewed a guy called Eric Sterling, who was wrote the drug laws for the United States in the 80s. He was the lawyer on the House subcommittee who they turned what the senators and congressmen want to happen into the wording of the law. And he remembered a time, I may be getting some of the details wrong, but he remembered a time when at the height of the AIDS crisis, health advisors would come in and say basically what I just said, and some of the people there would be like, well, do we want them to live? I mean, good, we'll get rid of them all. You know, and I think there was a similar attitude in Iran. There's certainly a similar attitude in Russia at the moment, where the Russian drug czar, Viktor Ivanov, is a complete maniac. But in the 90s, the late 90s, because of course, even if you have a completely annihilationist view towards drug users, we want them all to die, you can't contain an HIV crisis among drug users. Drug users have sex with other people, they have children and all sorts of other things. So at that point in the late 90s, and of course, this very slight opening of the reformists at the time, you had a movement towards harm reduction. Late in the day, but it happened. These extraordinary brothers that we're talking about, both doctors, they led a harm reduction program really bravely. It massively reduced the HIV transmission in Iran. There will be people watching this program who are alive now because of that program. And then during the crushing of the Green Revolution and the catastrophe surrounding that, they were arrested and they were forced into exile. They're now in, I believe in upstate New York. And harm reduction has been disrupted. It's not been entirely shut down in Iran, but it's been disrupted. That has catastrophic consequences, of course, for the people of Iran.
So you mentioned there's a UN meeting that happens every 10 years. What are some of the things that you're hoping would come out of this meeting that would help people in Iran, in Russia, in the US and elsewhere?
This is going to be a really exciting and important moment. So basically, once every 10 years, the UN has a kind of big drug war jamboree. It's called the UNGAS, the UN General Assembly Special Session. And it's a bit like the climate talks, but full of awful people. And it's happening 2 years early because Colombia and Mexico and Guatemala asked for it to happen early. And it's a really important moment because so basically every time it's happened before, countries turn up and they go, yeah, we're going to rid the world of drugs. Their actual official slogan is, a drug-free world, we can do it. Which I think tells you something about how removed from reality that is. I was speaking the other day to the Czech drug minister, the drug minister for the Czech Republic, and he said, to find slogans as crazy as that, you have to think about the communism I grew up under. It's ludicrous, the idea that you can have a drug. There's never been a drug-free world. Good luck with that. But this is going to be a really exciting moment because this is the first time when a significant number of countries are going to turn up and say, we're not doing this anymore. Enough. So it's an interesting mixture of countries. In the last couple of weeks, I've spoken to it must have been more than that, last month, In Colombia, I met with an advisor to President Santos. They're going to take a really strong line. The Jamaican drugs minister, Mark Golding, who's a justice minister, I should say, who's an amazing man. The Czech drug minister, whose name I cannot pronounce, I'm not going to try. Looks like Portugal, Switzerland, Uruguay, and a few other places are going to just say no more. So on the one hand, you've got this reform bloc. On the other hand, you've got this bloc of some of the worst regimes in the world, really. You've got Russia, China, the Saudis, and Iran, who are going to say the exact opposite. We need to intensify the war on drugs. You got in the middle, so it's funny because up to now, the United States has been the leader of that bloc in a way. It's been the country that imposed this on the world. Now their own people have rebelled against it. Colorado and Washington have voted to legalize cannabis. They have, in fact, 4 states have now voted to legalize cannabis. It's happened in Colorado, Washington, and Oregon. I have a chapter in Chasing the Scream about the amazing people who led that movement. And so you're going to have the US in this weird position where they've normally been the ones beating everyone up, but they're turning up in breach of the the drug war rules themselves. So it'll be a fascinating moment. And I think one of the demands of the reform bloc, which I think we might actually get, is a change to the drug treaties, or rather to set in train the change to drug treaties. These things take ages to say. At the very least, no one should be being executed for breaching the drug laws. So as you know much better than me, Iran has, is it the highest or one of the highest? I forget. It's in the top 3 or 4, isn't it? For executions and drug-related executions are extremely high on that. So I think we could get international condemnation of, I think there's like 6 or 7 countries that are holding out. Iran, Thailand just executed people, didn't they? There's a few places that still execute people for drug-related offences. At the very least, we should be getting that. But what will be important is no one will be able to say after this UN special meeting, oh, all the countries of the world are united, we're all behind this vision. You know, no one can say that anymore. And that is a really crucial thing to have. And loads of victims of the drug war will be turning up. Some amazing people that I got to know in the writing of my book. So I think it's a super exciting moment. Also, the book is coming out in Farsi. I'm thrilled to say later this year or early next year. It's being translated at the moment. I'm really thrilled about that. As you know, my family has this connection with Iran. You know, it's a country I've always been fascinated by, and you know, it's a country where arguments for reform are really desperately needed. And I think the most important thing to communicate to people in Iran who are supporting the current drug war is to say, look, the one thing you can say in defense of the war on drugs is it has been tried. The United States has spent $1 trillion. They have killed hundreds of thousands of people. They have done it for 100 years. And at the end of all that, they can't even keep drugs out of their prisons, which gives you some idea of how effective that strategy is going to be. I have been to the places where they have tried decriminalisation and legalisation. I have been to Portugal. I have been to Switzerland. You know, Switzerland is a really conservative country, right? This is not, you know, actually the life my grandmother had, you know, growing up in a mountain, on a mountain in Switzerland, was more like an Iranian woman's life than like the life of a woman here in London. Really conservative society. They decided to legalise heroin for addicts because the results were so striking. Do you know how many people have died of heroin overdoses on legal heroin in Switzerland? Nobody. Not a single person. So when people say, oh, the only answer to this drug crisis in Iran is war, 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 you know, look at the places that have tried that and look at the places that have done the exact opposite. You can choose which of them to be. I know there's a fight in Iran, a very powerful and crucial fight, which you're a really important part of, to get to be in the position where you can be making the choices about the policies of the country and not a disgusting, unelected, reactionary clique of maniacs. But you want to get there first. But you know, once that's in place, which is a big once, I know, you know, then you're really, you know, then you can choose policies that will save the lives of enormous numbers of Iranian citizens.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I should just say people can, if anyone wants any more information about the book, or if they want to hear the interviews with any of the people that I've mentioned, if they go to www.chasingthescream, and that's scream as in not scream as in screen, that you look at this programme on, you can go to www.chasingthescream.com and facebook.com/chasingthescream.
Brilliant.
Hooray.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marion.
Brilliant. Thanks. امیدوارم از مصاحبه با یوهان هاری خوشتون اومده باشه. به نظرم واقعا مسائل مهمی رو مطرح میکنه، به خصوص برای مردم ایران. میبینیم الان مثلا سال گذشته نزدیک به 1000 نفر اعدام شدن تو ایران، بیشترین اعدام ها پر کپیتا در جهانه و خب میدونیم درصد بالای این اعدام ها برمیگرده به اعدام هایی مربوط به مواد مخدر و خب سازمان ملل از اون ور داره حمایت میکنه از جنگ علیه مواد مخدر جمهوری اسلامی و به یه نوعی داره به این اعدام ها کمک میکنه، داره حمایت میکنه به یه نوعی.
حتی نماینده حقوق بشر در رابطه با ایران احمد شهید هم همین اصلا صداش در اومده، میگه که باید سیاست‌های یون نباید کمک بکنه به اعدام‌های بیشتر و توی خود سازمان ملل و خیلی از کشورها بر علیه این سیاست نظامی کردن مبارزه بر علیه مواد مخدر مخالفن. الان سران کشورهای آمریکای لاتین هم صداشون در اومده و خیلی ها مخالف این سیاست هستن. یک سیاست کاملا شکست خورده است و توی جامعه ایران این کاملا معلومه که مواد مخدر، مبارزه با مواد مخدر باید مبارزه برای بهبود و بهداشت مردم باشه و این چیزی که سازمان‌های نظامی اکثرا حاضر نیستن دست به این کار بدن، به خاطر اینکه حفظ امکاناتشون، روابطشون در گروه مبارزه با مواد مخدره.
فتوای احمقانه این هفته از عربستان سعودیه و یک ملایی به اسم صالح الفوزان و ایشون یه فتوایی اعلام کردن علیه بوفه غذا.
این آقا جزء گروه فتوا
کارخونه فتوا سازی.
یه گروه دارن، یه 7-8 نفر هستن و رسمی هستن، میشنن فتوا میدن، رسمی نشستن فتوا میدن و هر روز بلند میشن میرن یه جا نگاه میکنن میرن مردم کجا خوشحالن اونجا این فتوا نه اینجا میده، غذا همه دارن میخورن. یه روز فکر کنم یک شنبه رفته فکر کنم داشته قدم میزده، یه سری از خانواده نشستن توی رستوران نشستن، میگه اینجا چه خبره؟ میگه اول یو کن ایت بوفه است که هر چقدر میخوای بکنی. نه فتوا، به خاطر که من خوشم از این نمیاد راه میرم فتوا میدم.
بعد نوشته که هر کی که وارد بوفه بشه و برای 10 یا 50 ریال غذا بخوره بدون اینکه از قبل تصمیم بگیره چقدر میخواد بخوره، در تناقض با قوانین شهر. اصلا این باید نمیدونم رئیس دنیا بشه، اینقدر چیز تفکرش بالاست.
چقدر براش هم دلیلم گذاشته، فکر کرده دلیل گذاشته
چه دلایلی.
دیوانن اینا واقعا.
برین بوفه هر چی میخواین بخورین، حال کنین، عیدتون هم مبارک. لحظه از زندگی این هفته در رابطه با 2 زن جوان در سوئد که یک برنامه ورزشی به وجود آوردن در دفاع از پناهجویان. اسمش هم هست سلام غریبه و اول اسکی یاد دادن به پناهجویان، صدها پناهجو و الان هم یک برنامه 2 دارن.
دقیقاً. و این در واقع 2 زن لحظه‌ای رو شروع کردن که در زمانی که ما میشنویم به علیه پناهندگان این همه تبلیغ هست، نشون دادن که جامعه وقتی آغوشش رو باز میکنه به طرف پناهندگان و جزئی از جامعه هستن، زندگی و آغاز خوبی رو برای آیندهشون در واقع شروع میکنه، راه خیلی خوبی رو شروع میکنه برای زندگی یه عالمه از پناهندگان که اینا جزء آینده اون جامعه هستن. هر کاری که مهم نیست چه اتفاقی میفته، این پناهنده‌ها جزئی از آینده این جامعه خواهند بود و این سرآغاز خیلی خوبی برای زندگی پناهنده ها. ان آنسن و اما لوندبرگ این برنامه رو شروع کردن و در واقع باید بهشون تبریک گفت
واقعا دستشون
که این لحظه زیبای زندگی رو به وجود آورد.
به هر حال به انتهای برنامه‌مون رسیدیم. قبل از اینکه بریم دوست داریم دوباره به بینندگان عزیز تبریک بگیم، سال نوتون مبارک و امیدوارم چهارشنبه سوری خیلی خوبی داشتین. جالب اینجاست که همیشه دولت‌های اسلامی، جمهوری اسلامی سعی می‌کنن جلوی عید و چهارشنبه سوری رو بگیرن. دولت ترکیه اخیراً قدغن کرده ولی خب خیلی‌ها رفتن تو خیابونا و جشن گرفتن.
خامنه‌ای هم توی ایران قبل از چهارشنبه سوری مثل هر سال تلاش کرد که فتوای احمقانه خودش رو بده و بگه که این کاملا هیچ بنیان اسلامی نداره چهارشنبه سوری.
خب همه مردم ریختن تو خیابون.
من نشون دادم که بنیان تو جامعه ایران داره، زندگی و شادی و جشن آماده کردن خودشون برای سال نو. ما قبل از که بریم شما رو با صحنه‌های زیبای جشن‌های خیابونی بر علیه نظرات آقای خامنه‌ای می‌ذاریم. تا هفته آینده از طرف من و مریم نمازی.
بای.
She work the pole, she break it down, she take it low, she fine as hell, she pop dope, she doing a thing out on the floor. Money, she make it, look at the watch, she shake it, make it more touch, make it more taste, the hell is
رقصی باد صفا کنید از بحر نور و روشنی هلهلهی به پا کنید خرمن آتش بساز شادی کن از روش بپر بحر رهایی از بلا سرخی شو با خود ببر بحر رهایی از بلا سرخی شو با خود ببر دست‌ها رو بالا کنید رقصی باد صفا کنید از بحر نور و روشنی هلهلهی به پا کنید خرمن آتش بساز شادی کن از روش بپر بحر رهایی از بلا سرخی شو با خود ببر بحر رهایی از بلا سرخی شو با خود ببر شب چهارشنبه سوریست غم و از یادت ببر شادی های این شب و همه جا با خود ببر شب چهارشنبه سوریست غم و از یادت ببر شادی های این شب و همه جا با خود ببر راستی یادتون نره راستی یادتون نره وقتی از آتش میپری واژه آزادی رو به زبانها بیاری آزادی 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 دستا رو گره کنی از رو آتش بپری وقت پریدن از اون خنده به لبها بیاری زردی من از تو سرخی تو از من 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 دستا رو بالا کنید
Hi, I'm Mariam Namazi.
And I'm Fariborz Puya.
We're hosting a program called Bread and Roses. It's a weekly program that's broadcast in Persian and English in the Middle East and North Africa, primarily Iran as well. And it's also shown on YouTube internationally.
And we've been doing this since last May. We're coming up to our year's anniversary, and we've had quite a lot of fun making these videos.
We discuss taboo-breaking, free-thinking ideas. The Islamic regime of Iran has called us immoral and corrupt.
And that's why you need to support us. We are and the alternative voice in Middle East and North Africa.
Of corruption and immorality. So do support us. Here's a short video from Patreon that explains how you can help us with even just $1 a week. That's nothing. support us.
Patreon lets fans become patrons of their favorite artists and content creators. It's different than Kickstarter because it's not about one big project that requires lots of funding. It's more for bloggers or YouTubers or webcomics, anyone who creates on a regular basis. Here's how it works. When you become a patron, you're agreeing to give an artist a tip of an amount you set every time they release a piece of content, whether it's a new song, a video, or a recipe. You can set a monthly maximum to make sure that you're always within your budget. Choose an amount, enter your payment information, and you're done. Becoming a patron allows you to view and post in the artist's stream, and in exchange for your support, artists offer additional patron packages, which might include monthly Google Hangouts, music production tutorials, pre-sale concert tickets, or anything they can offer as a way to say thanks. Patreon, empowering a new generation of content creators.